All right, we're ready to go. All right, this is Josh Duncan. I'm here. I got a special guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself. So, Jim, who are you and what do you do?
Well, thanks, Josh. I appreciate your time this afternoon. I'm Jim Holland, and I kind of consider myself one of the elder statesmen in product management and product marketing. I often think that that may happen through gray hair or through experience or a combination of both. But I've been in product management for 20 years. I've worked in B2B software companies all the way down to scratch startup companies, and have really just had a great opportunity in kind of learning more about product management, product marketing, and to build out and grow those teams to help do that. When I have the cycles to do so, I actually write the Product Management Tribes blog. Spend quite a bit of time online in the product management community on Twitter and also in LinkedIn discussion groups, and hope that I can bring some of the experiences I've had forward to other people who do the same thing that we all do.
And Jim, this is exactly the reason why I reached out and wanted to talk to you today, because I think since I've been online and since I've been kind of participating in product management, you have been there and been consistently offering some great advice. So I really appreciate you doing that, and also taking the time to do it here online today. So product vision, it was a topic we thought might make a good interview discussion today. So could you set the stage for us on, let's have a definition of what product vision is.
Sure. I thought about that a little earlier when you asked the question before we started, and one of the things I thought of was I'm going to go back to kind of the typical standard Oxford Old English Dictionary definition. And I looked at that and it said, it's really about the ability to think about or to plan the future with imagination, and I'll put the word innovation maybe inserted in there, or wisdom. And when I think about product vision, for me, it's really a balance of that. It is a balance of the imagination, or perhaps that innovation, that comes along with that wisdom. And the wisdom really is that balance of what you think about and what you plan or act upon as a product manager. And that to me really is kind of the essence of product vision. And so it really is a dimension of not tumbling into one specific area or idea or feature set. We all want to make the very best products that delight customers, but really is having kind of that holistic view that really encompasses things that are out in the future plus the things that are relevant today.
All right, so you're talking to a new product manager. He's just joined a company. Where does he find product vision? How do you go about building this wisdom here that you talked about?
Right. I think that new product managers and anybody in the first 30 days or first 90 or 100 days has to be part archaeologist, because it's all about the artifacts, especially internally. And it's interesting that I've been in those kind of situations, and currently in a situation like that where you just go in kind of head first and you take the opportunity, you just start asking questions. And you ask a few questions, and then more importantly is you have to listen. And then you have to take out your mining tools if you're an archaeologist, and you have to start chipping away at things. And you have to look at the things that are relevant, the things that could be, or the things that absolutely don't make any sense, but you might want to put them in a parking lot someplace, and give some opportunities for that to rest until you kind of take the opportunity to move outside. And it's kind of interesting that there's so many influences happen with new product managers who walk into an organization. And everybody has an opinion. There's no shortage of opinions whatsoever. And I think that what happens is the opinions are great, and we all know the famous quote that goes along with that. However, if there's substantiated information that comes along with that product managers can surface, and they can start through that kind of discovery process, it's great. And that's kind of a part of it. The other part is it is connecting absolutely with some of those influencers that absolutely happen to be customers and the people who sit in the market. And that's that other balance that probably in that first number of days as a new product manager have to be discovered and understood. And that's probably where I would start.
Okay, that's great. I think you've explained that well, and so now you've started to develop, you have the vision, which is not trivial, right? To get that, to earn and come up with those ideas is not easy. Now what? How do you actually go about taking this vision and making it a reality and making it into something that actually is delivered as a product?
Right. That there's probably a disclaimer I'll put in here. First is that, in a lot of organizations, they think, well, I'm going to walk in, the executive management team, has a vision in place, and there may be a high-level vision. And, I've seen some real great ones in my day. I've sat down with a couple of CEOs, and they've said, hey, I want to be, an X billion-dollar company by this specific date.
Yeah.
And that was the vision. And, short of, if they were in, either software or services or some type of technology business, short of doing something outside of the boundaries of where their business was, they didn't care how they got there. And so that's one of the things that really, coming back to the question, is, working on how we actually make this happen. I think there's probably three things that stand out in my mind that kind of look forward to the execution of this. The first one is action, and then product management is all about action. Yeah. And so that's one aspect, and we kind of can spin back on the others. Decisions. Product management has to be either that influencer or champion of decisions, or is a person who has to stand up and say, I'm accountable, I'm making the hard and fast decision. And then also has to be that champion of the plan. And the plan doesn't have to be, a feature set or requirements document, but really is a plan of, kind of the multifaceted aspects of, it's all about the business first.
Yep.
And with product managers, that really has to be there. The business has to be at the forefront of anything with product vision. And, kind of those three different areas are part of the key, kind of legs on the stool, if you would, that provide that kind of baseline to build off of.
So you touched on a couple of key points, and one of the statement comes up a lot online, and you hear people talk about in presentations, and product managers need to be the CEO of their product, and as a product manager, that sounds really appealing, right? I mean, I want to be in charge, and I want people to listen to me, and I want to make decisions. At the same time, it makes me cringe a little bit because there's definitely a degree of things that you have to do beforehand to really earn that respect and earn that type of decision-making capability. So I think that the clarification around that's important about whether or not you've earned the right to make the decisions, or if you need to still kind of grow and build some of those things to get the consensus. And I think the turnaround back to a question to you is how does one become that CEO so you can get to the point that you're really actually making those decisions and standing up and owning that plan?
That's a great question. The things I can think of, maybe I'll give you a short story. When I first got into product management, I had a good set of good domain expertise and background experience. I'd actually worked in a sales operations role, so I actually worked in the field with customers. Back in the day, I was an SE, and so I felt like I had a large amount of information. Really had really a strong positive capability in coming in to have the conversation with development. And sat down through the first cycle, with development, and kind of went through things that were going to be a priority, and kind of went through that process. And someone said, "So, where's your data to back this up, or how are you making these recommendations, and where are the decisions coming from?" And I had some gaps. I had some real gaps. And the first thing is, there has to be two things that happen. One is that there has to be a level of credibility behind anything you bring forward. I mean, we all know that. Yeah. But it has to be backed up with real data. And that data and information is going to be key. The second half of that is if you don't have that credibility, you're not going to build any trust. And so I kind of imploded both of those in that very first meeting. And you can imagine, I walked away just feeling like I had been kicked, several times. But more importantly, I'd actually kicked myself. Mm-hmm. And so I made the conscious decision at a point in time, and went back and sat down with a mentor of mine and said, "This is what happened." He goes, "Well, you got some damage control to do." And so I started, through that cycle of what can I do. And so, I started building those pieces in of doing the outside type of work we all know that needs to be done. Having interviews with customers, really validating some of the steps that have to go through. Started looking for the right types of information that could substantiate that, and started feeding that in through to the team that I was working with, and that gave me the capabilities to build out all the success that was there. So that's that piece that has to happen, and for anyone to have that kind of true sense of vision and leadership in what they're doing, it takes the foundation to work at first before everything else happens.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. It's earning the trust, earning the respect. Those type of events have to occur before you're going to get to that point where you are the trusted guy that can make the calls and make the decisions. And get people understanding your thought process before you just go in there and start decreeing this is the way it is. We're doing it my way, and otherwise it's the highway. And in those scenarios, I think product managers usually find themselves on the highway because they've lost the support of the team.
Exactly. And, one of the things you ask is, what can product management how can they build this to be have that kind of success as a CEO of the product? And it's interesting. I used to, a few years ago, really believe that product management could be the CEO of the product. Yeah. And all organizations aren't going to align to that. It just doesn't work in some organizations. I mean, if you're in smaller organizations where you're wearing multiple hats, you've got multiple responsibilities, there's things happening, at the speed of light almost, then yeah, that's probably going to happen because someone's got to have that ultimate ownership. But if you're in a large organization where there's multiple layers of product management as a discipline, the organization is run in different areas. The word CEO is not going to come off the mindset of the executive team or the senior leadership team at all. Yeah. However, the word product thought leader is always going to resonate. And I think that's one of the things that product managers have to be is they have to be that product thought leader. And I don't mean thought leader from the sense of how we may think of it with people from the outside or industry analysts or the people who have a subject matter expertise. But you think about, those three words kind of combined together. It really is someone who is knowledgeable. Maybe they do have the domain expertise. They do have the business strategy in place. They have a high-level vision painted before them. They can imagine things, but also execute on those things are real. So the product thought leader really is that person that has to be in place.
I really like that the imagination along with the execution. I think that's the great thing to underline there. So we might have to work on that one because I like that the thought leader definition, the product thought leader definition, a little bit better than CEO. It seems to have a little bit more depth to it because the problem with CEO always just, in my mind, the buck stops with the CEO, and he's the one that can put the stake in the ground. And really, product managers often don't have that type of decision-making capabilities. They need to do more to build and be more of almost like a product community manager sometimes inside the organization than a real decision maker.
Exactly. One of the other sides is we talked about trust, we talked about credibility. On the inside, from an individual standing there, it's about confidence. And when I gave the story example earlier of me kind of imploding, did that do anything to build my confidence? Well, absolutely not. It probably put a little chink in my reputation. Personal reputation, but what I did is said, okay, I'm going to go and reformulate that. And so as I started to rebuild and kind of reshape and build a level of trust and build a level of credibility and have some respect within the groups I was working with, that gave me a chance to kind of, to build that level of confidence. And a lot of times product management relies on what they know, and the unknown is one that really does kind of shake people's, confidence is making it happen. And it's hard to be someone who's in a thought leader position, especially for a set of products or a product, if you don't have that level of confidence.
Awesome point. Jim, thank you so much for your time today. It was a real pleasure. Really appreciate all the sharing today and everything you've been doing to help the product management community. It's much appreciated.
My pleasure, and appreciate your time as well.
All right.